No, 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 there's no mercy. Look, what's happened is they've let me do another list, and I wouldn't be honoring myself if I didn't shoehorn in a reference to 90s Eurodance. One of the longest surviving Attitude Era pay-per-views, No Mercy has a fondness among the wrestleriat. I'm working on it. Not least because it lends its name to one of the most iconic video games of all time. With the show about to be the latest classic event to roar back into life under the auspices of NXT, it's high time we took a look back at the cards of yore. You might be surprised, given that we're officially in the part of the year where booking becomes less a studied creative practice and more a game of pin the feud on the mid-card, but there's actually a wealth of brilliant contests to choose from, stretching over nearly 2 decades. That makes a nice change now, doesn't it? I'm Dan, hailing from partsFUNknown, and these are the 10 best WWE No Mercy matches ever.
Let me paint you a picture. You've completed all of TV and watched all the wrestling content from that past week. You've even watched all the great Wrestle Talk and partsFUNknown videos. And you've just completed Final Fantasy VII for the 7th time this year. And you're sat there alone in your pants with ice cream dripping down your chin, wishing there were ways to break out of the confines of your region's streaming services and experience something new. Well, if that sounds like me, you, then have I got the solution for you. And we call this fine vessel Surfshark VPN. Surfshark VPN is an online tool that allows you to surf the web without the constant fear of someone repo manning your personal data right from under your nose. With Surfshark VPN, you can seamlessly encrypt your online data, allowing you to safely and securely do your online banking while connected to a potentially insecure public Wi-Fi. Surfshark also keeps your browser history and location locked away from websites who may want to use that data. Not only that, but you can also share potentially sensitive files without the worry of them being compromised or stolen against your will. And of course, Surfshark VPN also allows you to connect to 3,200 servers in over 100 countries across the world, so that you can only dream of visiting in real life. So no more bored Saturday nights. Instead, just sit back and relax and enjoy all the Hulu Plus and HBO Max you want safely from the comfort of your own home. And better yet, if you're one of our American viewers, or heaven forbid, a Canadian viewer, you can access the original, proper, and good version of the WWE network, even if they have made the interface rubbish now. What were you thinking? Look how bad this is! If all of that sounds good to you, then take a look down below in the video description to find an exclusive link for just you, or alternatively visit surfshark.deals/jamthatjam, where you can help yourself to 83% off plus 3 months for free when you use the code JAMTHATJAM on checkout. That's surfshark.deals/WrestleTalk. Use the promo code JAMTHATJAM for 83% off and 3 months for free.
Number 10, The Bar vs Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose, 2017. By God, I think he just lost a tooth, is something you'll often hear commentators say in response to a mild super kick. So when it happens for realsies, you find out it's actually pretty brutal and everyone clenches a little. This is a match of 2 parts, plodding along nicely for a few minutes before Ambrose catapults Cesaro, who launches himself teeth first into the ring post. You don't spot it immediately, but when Cesaro is hit with, ironically, a super kick, he pulls back to reveal a mouthful of blood. We then get a grisly slow-motion shot of blood spurting from the gaps where his teeth used to be as he slips out to ringside for some emergency dental work, and the other 3 carry on, sneaking the occasional glance to check he's just fine. Once everything's fixed, he gets back up and the 4 of them go, alright, that's done, let's have a banger I suppose, and they absolutely do. There's a particularly good spot where Sheamus hits a white noise on Ambrose while Cesaro powerbombs Seth from the top rope onto Ambrose, and Ambrose still kicks out. The Bar are one of my favourite tag teams ever, and this match is a testament as to why. Number 9, Roman Reigns vs John Cena, 2017. While not a wrestling clinic, this match is a gripping test of endurance. 2 stars meet at a convergence point of their parallel careers. It's a power struggle between the new blood on the rise and the elder at the start of his decline. And so, each man kicking out of the other's finishes doesn't feel as cheap as it could, because they're balancing each other out. Like when your Pokemon's strongest move is great, but your opponent's at a slightly higher level, just try and fight that analogy, okay? You can't, it's watertight. In the end, Roman kicks out of 2 consecutive AAs in a moment of pure disbelief. Super Cena isn't as super as he used to be, and as Roman hits the surprise punch spear combo, he forces his way into the space Cena used to occupy. What it lacked in technical brilliance, it more than makes up for in drama. Number 8, Triple H vs Jeff Hardy, 2008. Are you ready for a hot take? Sit down, brace yourself. Jeff Hardy's late 2000s run in WWE was quite good. Yeah, but you didn't expect that. Oh boy, up top. always beloved by the fans, Jeff was teetering on the edge of the main event scene when drafted to SmackDown in the summer of 2008, and it wasn't long before he was challenging for the top title. The match is basically playing cat and mouse with your feelings. Jeff is beloved by the live crowd, who really want this to be his night, and it so nearly is. After several near falls, Jeff misses the swanton, manages to struggle out of the pedigree, hits a twist of fate, and a swanton again, but it's his inexperience in the big match spot that proves to be his undoing, as he's too cavalier with his pin, and Triple H uses what strength he has left to trap him in a crucifix pin. In a few short months, Jeff will make it to the top of the mountain, and it will be glorious, but this is a brilliant stop along the path. Number 7, The Miz vs. Dolph Ziggler, 2016. Have I taken my first opportunity to get The Miz on a best matches list? You're goddamn right I have. The Miz slander has gone on too long around these parts, and I'm here to change it. In fairness, it's possible this is a you had to be there kind of moment, but I was, so I'll explain. This was very soon post-draft, and SmackDown in particular was benefiting from the renewed optimism every wrestling fan gets from a new logo and a fresh lick of paint. And off-screen, rumors of Dolph's impending retirement were beginning to pick up, and to be fair, he certainly wrestles this match like they were true. He's always a reliable bump generator, but there's an intensity here that had been missing from his matches for quite a while. And Miz plays his part brilliantly too. Fresh off one of the most iconic promos of all time on Talking Smack, he leaned into this arrogant villain character perfectly, with the action building the crowd into a frenzy as the near falls and interferences piled up. Sure, hindsight shows this wasn't the game changer we all felt it was, but the catharsis of Dolph getting the win and looking rejuvenated while doing it was, indulge me, awesome. Number 6, Randy Orton vs. Triple H, 2007. This entry is technically for one match, but actually could stand for the entire night. WWE champ John Cena suffered a torn pec the week of the event, and so a classic bit of Vince McMahon overbooking took place, and for once it worked pretty well. Orton was due to face Cena in a last man standing match, so was handed the vacant belt and immediately provoked into defending it by Triple H. Bish bash bosh, 11 minutes later, new champ. It's all about the game and how you play it. Vince isn't best pleased with this development, so he orders Triple H's originally scheduled match against Umaga to go ahead as a title match. Fine, says Trips. I am the game and I want to play. 6 minutes later, title successfully defended, easy money. Except not that easy, because Vince saunters in to say he can defend it once more against Orton in the originally advertised last man standing match. With Trips injured after 2 matches, you'd expect a Randy massacre, but they plot the match so nicely that the champ ends up getting a second win, using it to batter Randy into a few 9 counts. And with JR commentating his Oklahoma behind off, you start believing he just might hang on. Honestly, as last-minute overbooking decisions go, this really works and makes the championship feel like something worth walking through hell for. Number 5. The Undertaker vs. Brock Lesnar, 2002. One of the most iconic Hell in a Cell matches of all time, and they don't even need to spill to the outside to do it, because what goes on inside the cage is like all-out war. War that leaves both men bleeding so much that the ring starts looking like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre tie-in. No, not that one. Crikey, he's losing a lot of blood there, you think, before Undertaker basically gaslights you by getting right back to his feet and delivering big moves with bundles of energy. 'Tis but a scratch. As Taker hits the last ride, he crawls over to make a pin, and you can't keep your eyes off the waterfall of blood that trails across the prone Lesnar, who still manages to kick out. It's a flesh wound. And good lord, the finish! Lesnar reverses the tombstone, hoiks Taker onto his shoulders, and hits an F5 like this has all just been a warm-up. And then he climbs the cage with ease to hold the belt up, Taker staring through his crimson mask and the cage roof at this powerful, bona fide new star. Unreal. Number 4, Chris Jericho vs. Shawn Michaels, 2008. Now Tempest, before you pick up your maple syrup and come for me, calm right down. This top 4 is so insanely close in quality that the actual order they're in feels somewhat arbitrary to me, which is why one of the best feud enders of all time has come in at number 4. Not so much a ladder match as a match with a ladder in it, this was fantastically creative in its restraint. It's not about high spots or demolition derby visuals, but about using the ladder to make their usual offense even more brutal. There's a lion salt. Onto a ladder. There's an elbow drop. Onto a ladder. At one point, Jericho simply kicks the ladder, using the ring post as a pivot to ricochet hard into Michaels' face. Brilliant. And closing with a breathtaking tug of war, both men hanging on either side of the loose belt, the crowd collectively holding their breath, wondering who is gonna wriggle out free first. It's a spectacular way to end an all-time classic rivalry. With both men so linked to the match type and also being 2 of the best to ever lace up a pair of boots, leave it to them to have one of the most original ladder matches in history, which is saying something because, number 3, Edge and Christian versus the Hardys, 1999. It's hard to explain this to those of you watching who are used to Canadian destroyers off a ladder onto triple stacked barbed wire tables on the outside that may or may not also be on fire. But trust me when I say that the ladder match we know and love today simply doesn't exist without this one. The final match in the Terry Invitational Tournament, spell it out T-he-he, these were two young teams trying to catch the attention of the top brass by forcing their way into the hearts of the fans with fast-paced, high-risk action that we otherwise weren't seeing in the land of the walk and brawl. There was a fearlessness to their wrestling that just wasn't seen anywhere else in the late 90s WWE, and giving them ladders to play with unlocked another level of creativity. JR is legit in saying repeatedly, "I've never seen this kind of thing in my life," because back then, we simply hadn't. There's a reason that nearly 25 years later, we're fantasy booking one final ladder match between these four men with a reckless disregard for their close to 50-year-old frames. It might look tame in comparison to today's spot fests, but this match is the blueprint. Number 2, Steve Austin versus Kurt Angle versus RVD, 2001. I feel like this might be a controversial choice so high on the list, but I have to live my truth, and it's my list. This is Attitude Era magic. Austin is playing the paranoid turncoat champion, Angle the entitled company man, and RVD has been elevated to the main title picture by sheer will of the fans. The match goes so hard from the first bell, a Thez press here, a moonsault there, so many Germans you'll start worrying you won't find a sun lounger. Little joke for the Brits on holiday there. I might be wrong, and I know you're flexing your fingers to correct me if I am, you pesky bunch, but I'm pretty sure there isn't an actual kick out in the entire match. Every pin is broken up by one of the other men, and the most nail-biting of all comes right at the end. Vince has hit Stone Cold with a chair and is screaming at Angle to get back to his feet. RVD hits a 5-star and goes for the cover. Angle is on the outside as the ref's hand starts to count, but he still makes it in time to break up the fall. Shane gets involved, and Vince tackles him over the announce table, which is hilarious, and by the end, every man looks stronger than they did when they went in. It's breathless, non-stop Attitude Era action, and I think it's utter magic. And number 1, Kurt Angle and Chris Benoit versus Edge and Rey Mysterio, 2002. Matches with the SmackDown 6 are always going to rate very highly, and this one is just so perfectly executed. Each of the 4 pops into the ring to showcase their style of wrestling, and the crowd starts wriggling in their seats, knowing they're on the cusp of something special. This was for the newly minted WWE Tag Team Championships, and if you want to make your new belt feel important, what do? Well, you pop all your best wrestlers in the ring and you give them 20 minutes to do what only they can. Sometimes you're looking for an X Factor in a match, but here you have 4 X Factors, all deciding to go in at 100% and not a morsel left. You have the mat specialist, the technical specialist, the high flyer, the storyteller. It's an expertly seasoned dish of a match, and I gobble it up every time. Taz just keeps saying this is sick over and over, and honestly, I can't put it better than that. And that's our list. I simply must demand that you share your thoughts in the comments below, and then hit the like and subscribe before going to watch one of our other lists, like this one right here. It's the most mid-time of the year. This stretch between SummerSlam and the Royal Rumble, aside from a brief November sojourn into war, both of the games and brand variety, is usually a bit of a wasteland, littered with stalling feuds and B pay-per-views, and perhaps the most B of all the B shows is WWE Payback. Sure, it was a fairly landmark show in 2020.